Welcome to yet another show of Quick Bytes with Amit. Hi Amit.
Hi.
Today I thought we'll discuss about freedom of speech.
Oh my God. Okay.
Why I say this is, we being in the country that we live in and the kind of a controversy which just churned the entire nation.
You mean that one with this young man who was kind of topping all
Yes,
kinds of...
let's not get into the names, but what I want to get into is the essence of what message which got conveyed. Maybe somebody went too harsh on him on the legal system, saying that, let's plug this, let's try to get back to system where we try to have order in the country. And one person was targeted as one view. The other view is we should have freedom of speech. I want to know from your side, what is your take?
I completely always will go with that we should have freedom of speech. But, like the word freedom itself signifies, there cannot be any freedom which is completely free. For example, I give you the analogy, and I think we have spoken in one or two of our podcasts about not only managers or leaders, but also parents giving their children a certain space, right? And I think I used this analogy about a donut. That if the hollow is what you have to do, you have to be right about, you have to be good about, which is like your daitva and kartavya, okay, but yet there are things that you can do beyond it, right? And this donut part around the hollow is where you have the freedom to play. So this freedom has to be given to any individual, not only your child or your so-called, people you lead or manage in organizations, or people you leave your influences with. Like even, for example, we are doing these podcasts, and we are free to speak, but we need to have a self-governance also, what we should decide that we should not talk about, okay? And maybe the question is that, how does one decide what one should not talk about, okay? Of course, if we talk about some things which are going to create, not so good impact or not so good influences, even if I believe, okay, I have the freedom of speech and I can say whatever I please and I believe in, okay, but there is a governance mechanism, there is a there is a judiciary sitting in any sovereign country, okay, it's not about our country alone, which has the task for sure, like a parent, like a manager or a leader, to say, look, there are limits, there are boundaries. Because there are risks, for example. I think sometime back in one of our shows, I give the analogy about a surfer, about an expert surfer. But even if an expert surfer which goes and surfs on these high waves, they know beyond a certain height of the wave, they will not surf anymore. Now, there is nobody to govern that person, because that person has to, decide that no, beyond this I do not go. Now, this is about leadership. This is about being a human being. Now, what is the difference between, we are also animals, right? Now, what is the difference? The difference is this, that we are supposed to understand that there are certain limits, and that is what we call a civil behavior or a civilization as a whole. We are living in a society which is supposed to be civil. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that somebody can come from, whether it's a church or a mandir or a madrasa or whatever, and dictate to me what I should do or what I should not do. That's not the point. The point is that I should have the sense of what can cause a bad impact or a wrong impact. For example, if I do not have the sense, I may still believe I'm fine with my freedom of speech, but then yes, there will be some governance of that, and there should be. I have no doubts about it, okay, and I never had any doubts about it. I mean, my children or my people who have worked with me, they always had the freedom, okay, but that doesn't mean that they can go anywhere and they can do anything, for example. You have to have freedom, and boundaries is what a human life is all about. You can't have freedom without boundaries. And then the point is, where do these boundaries come from as far as the individual is concerned? And I guess that is where the whole crux of this challenge lies, because how does an individual decide that this is the height of the wave beyond which I will not go anymore? And that comes to me, or for me, it comes from the sense of identity I have. And if I'm clear, who am I? And there are several I's over here, right? There's several hats we wear. Okay, I can start with saying that I'm a leadership coach, I'm a management mentor, but is that only me? No. I'm also, for example, a friend to somebody. I'm also a father. I'm also a husband. I'm also a brother. I'm also a son. Okay? And in a social environment, I'm also somebody, maybe, I'm president of some association. I'm treasurer of some other organization, for example. So each of these roles I play, that prescribes how much freedom I have and where are the boundaries. Now, if I'm not clear about my role that I play, in whichever hat I wear, in whichever time, okay, then I may end up doing podcasts where, because for podcasts I just need, like we are doing, we need a couple of cameras and an audio and so-called hard tech over here to speak whatever I want. But it cannot be about that, I speak whatever I want or whatever I only believe in. I have to still be responsible for the consequences of what I say and what I leave as influence on the people, okay? And there are varied kinds of people over here. So I have to be responsible for what I say. And I have to bear the consequences also. I cannot say that, okay, just because I have freedom of speech, written down in the Constitution. No, I have not read the Constitution. Okay, I'm not a parliamentarian, or I'm not really felt interested to, or curious even to read it. But I'm sure that even in the Constitution, there will be boundaries that, this is where the boundaries are. Now, there are interpreters of the Constitution, okay, and that is the judiciary. And if the judiciary does not come in somewhere, that means the judiciary is not doing its job.
When you say our judiciary not doing its job, or when they do their job, now in this particular instance where they try to intervene and say this is the limit of it and you've crossed it, and this is the high wave, you've crossed it, and there is consequence for it. Now, it is not something as an original that he created. It is something which has already happened over a period of time in another podcast which he brought in, and it was actually replayed.
Yeah, I really did not, I don't know the facts of this particular context about this, but
my question is, now that, this is not something the one-off or the first time this is happening, and this has been happening over a period of time by various entities.
Which was not caught.
And why now, or who decides when?
Yeah, well, for me, as a normal citizen of the country, okay, right, millions of people are like me, or a billion plus. You see, the point is that somebody does something wrong. Let me find an example for it. Okay, somebody is asking for a bribe. Okay, right? Obviously, somebody who asks for a bribe is in a position of power over the person whom he or she is asking for the bribe from. Now, and he doesn't get caught. Does that mean that he has not committed a crime?
No.
It does not mean, right? Now he does this over 5 years, it never gets caught, and finally, once he gets caught, due to whatever reasons, does it mean that because he was not caught the 599 times earlier over the last 5 years, this person cannot be caught anymore or punished anymore?
No.
No. Because the rule says you are not supposed to do that. That's it. And that's about, the word corruption. Corruption is not only about somebody asking for a bribe or you paying a bribe to whichever position of power that somebody is in. Corruption is also about, do I condone it? Okay? I can be corrupt when I am doing something that I know I should not do. And I'm doing it because it satisfies my ego. I'm doing this because it gives me more views for my quick bytes or podcasts. Okay, so I'm gaining something, okay, right? And that is why I'm crossing the lines. The people who do that, I don't want to sit on judgment, because there is a judiciary to sit on judgment on anybody and everybody in this country, whether if they get finally, it comes to the notice of the judiciary, right? The judiciary is a group of, 50, 70 judges sitting in Delhi or outside, for example, and they cannot police. Their job is not to do policing, right? And even the police, for example, we have probably the least police force as a proportion to the population that we have.
True.
Right? So even the police cannot catch all people who are committing crimes. But it becomes a crime when they get caught. So that's as simple as that. Freedom of speech is about freedom. And freedom means that the other side of the word freedom is responsibility. Okay, and if there would have been a third side to a coin, then I would say that it is accountability. Okay, and I think to be a human as opposed to be a fox in the forest or a tiger out there, or is this that we are supposed to, respect the consequences. We are supposed to own up the consequences. We are supposed to be even proud of the consequences. Now, somebody who crosses the line, and if you ask him or her, are you proud of the consequences? And he says yes, and this is a crime as per the rules of the land, then there is something wrong.
True.
And that wrong has to be corrected. I'm nobody to sit on judgment on either the person who has been corrected or either the person, the judges who have done this. I think they are doing their job, and the person who has been corrected tried to do his job, probably not as per the rights that he has. There is nothing called as freedom without any margin, without any boundaries.
True.
If that was so, then we have to live in a forest, not in a civilized society.
Very well put out, Amit. Do let us know what you think about Amit's say on this topic, and we'll be coming up with more content. Do sign up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with what you want to hear from Amit. Thank you so much.
And if you don't agree with me, please put it in the comment. I would love to know the other side of the view that I have.